Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Operational Services Committee agenda. I'm the fill-in chair here for today, acting on behalf of Councillor Bosch, who just popped up on my screen. We also have Councillor O'Toole and our worship Mayor Jackie Clayton, our beloved mayor, as the members of this committee. I know she smiled over there on that one. I'm going to use that for a while. So we'll call this meeting to order. We have no delegations today, and we'll jump right into... Oh, yeah, sorry. Our city clerk just helped me out here. Just for those of you watching online, we are having an amendment to the agenda. If you're following the agenda, you might notice at the bottom that there's a FOIP advice from officials. We conducted that business prior to this meeting, so we won't have to close the meeting to go into that camera meeting. So that is I guess we'll take that off the agenda. And do I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended? No, I don't. So with that being said, we'll move right into reports. And I'll turn it over to Chief Glavin for a service area update.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Starting with Energy and Environment, we have a GP Grows Tour event tomorrow, September 13th at Dalen Park. That's 76A Avenue and 98th Street from 6 to 7. And the topic of this session is nurturing and preserving trees. In facilities, the shutdown at Eastlink is underway. The acoustics materials are on site, and they're currently working on the 25-meter pool. In the Heritage Discovery Center at Center 2000, the South Peace Regional Archives has recently started renovating the lower level space, and they're estimating about a 16-week construction timeline for that work. In transit, we're starting to see overall ridership increase year over year. We're up about 25% over last year through to the end of August, which is good news that people are returning. In parks, the Mobile Skate Park was moved to the Activity Reception Center, and the Activity Reception Center is set to reopen to the public tomorrow after its recent use for the evacuees. As well, if you're driving along 100th Avenue, you may have noticed that we've started preparing the soils for the tree grove installation at 112th Street and then further down towards 116th Street. If you're looking at the configuration of them and why they don't all look the same, it's largely to accommodate utilities. So if you see they're not all the same shape, that's why. And in transportation, we had a late season overlay around the Swanhaven School that we installed some temporary crosswalks just in waiting for the actual crosswalks to be put in, which we didn't have any issues with at the beginning, and they are all good to go in that area now. And with that, I'll take any questions.
All right, thank you very much for that, Chief Glavin. I'll look around for committee and council. I don't see any members of our committee, but oh wait, there's one. She gets first dibs, our beloved Mayor, Jackie Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. Chief Glavin, can you, if you mentioned it, I apologize, but can you give us an update on the spillway and the work that's happening there?
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I believe that the majority of the work is done around the spillway. I'll have to confirm if the site's been released back to us.
I know the bridges and the crossings seem to be ready and released back for regular use, but I just wondered if all the work was actually done. Getting a nod from the audience.
And our engineering director's in the audience. She's nodded yes, that it's done. I don't know. Do you need more detail than that at this point?
No, just so everything's done, complete, ready to go.
No, not everything is complete, but
okay.
The majority of it is complete. There are some minor things we need to do with getting some of the pedestrian lighting done. And then there was a couple other minor things in the cabinet that we needed to have fixed.
And they'll be completed this year, though?
Oh, yes.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for stepping up there, Miss Donnelly. Appreciate it. Chief Glavin. Councillor Platt.
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. Just curious on our transit increase, which is great to hear. Have we been able to attribute to that how much of that's the youth since we've switched our passes and that is, or do we break it down the ride shares by that way?
Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I don't think I have that broken down yet as we just recently started the youth service, but I think if we gave that a month or two, we'd be able to see those increases materialize. But I'd have to check back with Mr. Harvard, our transit director, on those numbers. So I would say we'd have better numbers probably in October after we see some of the changes to youth materialize.
And just on that, if we're pulling numbers, I'm curious. It's always hard with numbers these days what we're comparing it to. So are we up from a year that was down or pre-COVID time? So if there was a context that when we come back of just like, is this our peak and this is the highest ridership we've ever had? Because I think if that's the case, that's something we should be celebrating for sure.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. So just for right now, so January to August of 2023, and then we're comparing that to 2022. So up until the end of August, we had 287,000 and change. And then in 2022, we had about 229,000. I'd have to pull some more historical data to see what our peaks may have been in previous years.
Just a supplementary note, driving my child back to school here with the new school year. One thing I've noticed, and especially this morning, I thought I was in Edmonton because I drove past a bus stop close to the cairn on 102nd, and there was literally about 20 people standing at that bus shelter there waiting for the bus to come. So I was crossing my fingers, hope it got on time and that they all got there. And I think it's also double dipping as a good service for integrating new people into our community, especially our landed immigrants, because I have been seeing a lot of people who maybe weren't born here, who have been utilizing the service over the last week and a half. So that's great. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. This is for Chief Glavin. I'm wondering, what is the plan for letting the reservoir fill back up? I'm just curious. I haven't heard whether or not that's going to happen or not.
Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. So the direction that we had previously provided council was that we would complete construction. This year we would not, given the time of the season, there's no flow on there to fill it. And that unless otherwise directed, we could begin filling it again in the spring. The upside to filling it is obviously the amenity, is that you have a nice area there. The downside is that every fall there's a lot. It doesn't smell very nice as the water recedes from it, because we have to maintain flow. It does start to decompose, and we do get complaints. We get complaints either way, whether we fill it or we don't fill it. So that's just a consideration. So right now you see what it's like if you don't fill it. It's a green area with, other wildlife that utilizes it, and we don't have the issues with smell. If we refill it, you have the nice area that can be used for, well, one, it looks nice, then you have birds and whatever else that will use it, so different type of wildlife, but then you do deal with the smells every fall. So if there is direction to do one or the other, we'd be interested if there's a perspective that council had of one way or the other, whether we return it back to normal or whether we continue operating as it is now.
Mayor Clayton and then Councillor Platt.
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. Personally, I prefer that it be filled. I do have a question from a resident in regards to the growing and the grasses and different things that are in there right now. Some of them have come a long way and they're fairly high. Would we just fill over it and hope that they die? And there's probably some trees in there now and different things, and so I think it should be filled, but I'm curious what the plan to prepare it for filling would look like.
Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I would perhaps have to come back with specifics, but my understanding is that we would likely just allow it to fill without any additional treatment. So
curious then, if I may, can we wait till we've had some frost so some of the stuff starts to die? I mean, it would look nicer if all the long grasses, etc., are under the water, and it would just be it would be more returned back closer to what it used to be.
So right now, to begin refilling it, it would be post-frost for sure, just with the flows, we wouldn't be able to do anything likely this year anyways. So as of, I'm going to guess, April, May, when things melt, that's the time that we would begin. We manage the flows in there so that we don't increase the level to risk overtopping the dam. So we'll have it fairly open in the spring to not allow it to fill up until the initial melt is done. And then after that, we can reduce flows to manage the water level.
Yeah, personally, I'm not set on the timing. I just think that it should come back to normal at some point. But if council's interested, I'm happy to make a motion to direct administration or bring back information regarding the timing of refilling. According to NWP, it's Bear Lake, but the reservoir. So depending on what committee wants.
Yeah, I do have other people in the queue, but I think that's a reasonable request. So I guess I'll put that motion that you're going to make aside for now. Get to the other questions. Councillor Palat, I'm going to pull you out of the queue and put you back in. I got Councillor Bosch in here, and she's part of the committee. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you. This is an outside question. I can wait if people want to discuss the matter at hand first.
Councillor Platt, did you want to discuss this? No, you can ask a question. There's a lot of things that we're discussing here right now.
Okay. My question is, what is the update, or can you update us on the new heated bus shelters, particularly the ones going in the city core that we had hoped would be done last winter? Where are they at this year?
Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I can get a status update from facilities and send that out after. I don't have that offhand.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Councillor Bosch. Councillor Platt.
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. Yeah, I like the idea of filling the water, and I just want to remind administration if we're going to do that, it might not hurt to reach out to the comp. I know I had several administrators pinging me the last few years on water levels because I didn't realize they actually used that area for some of their programming. And so I'm not sure if they're the only school that uses that for programming, but I think there is other user groups that use it as well. So I'd just be curious to hear if we're not utilizing those user groups aren't utilizing it, what else they've actually found to use. Because I've heard a few of the aquatic clubs, the kayak and the paddle clubs say that it was a really easy, accessible place for them to have access in our community. So for that, I think, outside of the beauty of the aesthetics, I think it was getting well utilized by some of our user groups.
Thanks for that, Councillor Platt. I am not seeing any other members in the queue right now, so I'll turn it back over to the mayor who had a motion in mind that I put to the side. Mayor Clayton.
Sure, I think it's probably in your, did you get it? Okay, so it's not prepared, so I just direct administration to bring back information regarding the refilling of the reservoir, and in that report it would be valuable to know if there's a preferred timing and any cost implications. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that motion. It is in order. We'll just wait for our clerk to get that all in order.
Okay. Looks good.
All right, we'll call the question. And that motion carries. Thank you for that motion, Mayor Clayton. And already, Chief Glavin has an update.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Just wanted to update on the heated shelters. We're expecting 6 to 8 weeks from now for the installation based on the contractor's schedule.
Thank you very much for that, Chief Glavin. Is that good for you, Councillor Bosch? It answers your question at least.
It does answer my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Clayton.
So we're going to install these in November?
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. It appears that's the earliest with the parts that they need to get them done is 6 to 8 weeks is the timeline the contractor's given us.
I'm assuming there's no concrete or anything that needs to be laid, and this is a simple installation above ground.
Yes, the concrete will be done in advance of that. It's the shelters themselves.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification question, Mayor Clayton. Any further questions? Seeing none, we'll move on with business to item 3.2, the Avondale High School sites, ARP site servicing, and 105th Street cost estimates. Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Council previously requested we bring back some costs to complete the road out to 116th Avenue, as well as servicing the future sites, the Appropriate Standing Committee, which is our Operational Services Committee. Some of the work around costing was previously addressed in the Area Redevelopment Plan around the cost of extending the road. The servicing requires some additional work to be done by external consultants, but I will let it go over to Ashley Coulter, who will be able to expand on that.
Thank you for that introduction, Chief Glavin. Hand it over to you, Ms. Coulter.
Thank you, through the chair. So at that April 17th meeting, Council passed a motion to direct administration to bring back cost estimates to extend 105 Street and service the future sites. Administration completed a detailed review of the existing services in the Avondale ARP area, and we found that in order to generate cost estimates, the completion of the engineering studies would be necessary to determine the infrastructure requirements for the future proposed development area. The current servicing is not sized to facilitate additional development in this neighborhood, as well as much of the infrastructure there is aging and it's constructed to outdated standards and out of outdated materials. The completion of the engineering studies and modeling will identify the servicing infrastructure that will be required, as well as the most cost-effective way to stage the construction of these various improvements. It's recommended that Council direct administration to bring forward a budget request for the engineering servicing studies to future budget deliberations.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Coulter. I'll turn it over to committee and council for any questions. I don't see it. Oh, there's one. Councillor O'Connor.
I am just curious with the potential location of the recreation facility. I know it's not firm yet, but I thought that we were looking at relocating towards the bypass. Am I not? Am I correct in that?
Chief Lemieux.
So thank you for that question, and through the chair. We've been asked by council to bring back a report with some proposed specific site locations for the recreation facility. That'll come to the next Public and Protective Services Committee. So we'll be presenting you with 2 or 3 options at that time that take this work into consideration.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Chief Lemieux. Answers your question, Councillor O'Connor? Yes?
Yeah, it may change the study that they're asking for, the 150,000, if that entry goes in and there is more services that need to go in at that part, which I do not believe is serviced. That may change what the study will look like, and I think that needs to be considered.
Yeah, 100% it needs to be considered. Just something else that needs to be considered is this is a $150,000 addition to budget deliberations in the fall, which would impact our 2024 budget. So I don't think any decision here would deter that study from incorporating anything that we might have come forward from administration prior to that. So I do have Mayor Clayton, Councillor Berg, and Councillor O'Connor in the queue. Councillor O'Toole then.
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. A question for Chief Glavin. As indicated in the report, there was a high-level estimate done in 2019 that the intersection or the access would cost between $3.5 and $5.1 million without any adjustment for inflation. I'm curious, how comfortable are we at doing another high-level estimate for council's consideration rather than spending $150,000?
Chief Glavin?
If we went high on the estimate, we would be more comfortable, but I think there's a lot of unknowns. I might have to defer to Ashley to give us kind of the risks in not doing the 150. It's just we wouldn't have specific work entailed, and that if we, at some point, I believe we have to do the studies regardless.
And so my point before you maybe add some context to it, if council's not prepared to spend this $4 million, whatever it is, there's no point spending the $150,000 right now. So if council wants to spend the $4 million, then let's spend the 150. But if we're not spending it in the next few years, in my opinion, we wait till we're ready to spend the money.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I think that's generally a reasonable approach, that if we're not going to do the project in the short term here, that we could defer this work until later, so long as there was no desire to implement the area redevelopment plan at this time.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Chief Glavin.
Yeah. Thanks, Chair Thiessen. And Ms. Coulter may have some additional context to that.
Yeah, and through the chair, looking at that 105th Street estimate, it is the cost for the road construction alone, is not taking into consideration future servicing that may be required. So if we want to put in future multifamily or future rec center, we need to put the pipes in the ground first, ideally. So to do this the most cost-effective way that's not going to result in rework and have the infrastructure that we need in place at the right time, those studies are going to support that.
Thank you for that, Ms. Coulter. I saw some funny faces across the One of the things that we have to be mindful of, as it states in the report, is that these pipes were put in under the ground in 1959 and later, and so being standard clay pipes, and I'm trying to remember the other one, but anyways, in concrete, clay and concrete pipes, they would need to be updated or be getting close to their shelf life. I'm not an engineer, but I'm trusting the experts here. So if that's what the funny faces are for, hopefully that adds context. If there's still a question, I'll take any. Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. I'm curious if these pipes are that old, if we've started talks with Aquaterra, if we need to upgrade services in an area. We went through this with downtown, and I'm just wondering if Aquaterra is going to be in a position where if these are 70-year-old pipes, it might be time for them to get involved with us on a co-shared capital project.
Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Yes, it's our expectation that Aquaterra would participate in a project like this when it happens. So once we had the work firmed up and we were doing the planning, we would work with them on that.
Yeah, so I can't vote on this today, but I'm kind of inclined to think with Mayor Clayton for $150,000, if we're not going to go ahead with the road, I don't see a lot of value there, to be honest, yet. I had a shock when I heard 150,000, and I'll be honest, I've had an engineer and a developer ping me on our numbers and was incredibly disappointed on the numbers we had and how high they were. So I was already struggling coming up with 150 of how we would spend that on even engineering this phase. But without knowing what's going to happen with Aquaterra and whether we're going to go ahead with the road, I agree with Mayor Clayton. I don't know if allocating $150,000 if we're not going to build this out really makes sense at this time. If we choose to build it out in 5 years, engineering and design centers could change at that point. It concerns me that we could have some throwaway costs on it, and I don't know if we know if we feel comfortable enough. I wouldn't feel comfortable enough at this point to say yea or nay to a road without knowing Aquaterra's input, what that road looks like. Are we doing separate sidewalks? Like, what is this thing going to turn into? So I appreciate that engineering would bring some of that, but I think if it could be a high-level estimate without us spending $150,000, I'd probably be more comfortable at this point.
Thank you for that, Councillor Plott. You've been very patient, Councillor O'Toole. Thank you for that. You're in the queue.
I just have one question. Speaking of when we're going to build it, on 104th Avenue, going to the bypass, was there ever any thoughts of putting a right lane exit out of that, right lane only, on that road in the near future?
Ms. Coulter?
Onto the bypass.
Or Chief Glavin? Heck, we even got Miss Donnelly here.
Got the whole crew.
My apologies. I was responding to a text on the subject here. Could you restate the question?
On 104th, we could go north and join the bypass on that road. There's a traffic circle there for the Peace Wapiti used. Is there any forethought by engineering to possibly put a right-hand lane turning on and only onto that bypass in the near future or any future?
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. I'm not aware of any planning on that one at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
So as we're talking about plans and studies here, I do have a question for you, Chief Glavin, in regards to the 150,000 that we might be pushing forward to the 2024 budget deliberations. I was looking at my 2024 budget guide. We have about $900,000 worth of plans and studies. I guess I'm just kind of looking for a bit of detail or context as to what those studies include, and if this could be shuffled into that.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. So the studies that are proposed in there do not contain this particular study, so that would involve either deferring studies further into the future or adding additional money into them. I believe we have taken a look at the spacing of those studies and are already proposing splitting some of those up in the capital budget, and so that there wouldn't be a request for $900,000 going into next year based on some of the analysis we've done over the past year.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any further questions here? Seeing none, I guess it's up to the committee to make a motion one way or another on this. The direction is that we approve this to go forward for budget deliberations. So I'll look to Councillor Berg, Bosch, or I got Mayor Clayton. Her hand went up first. Sorry,
Thanks,
Wendy.
Chair Thiessen. I'm happy to put this forward to budget deliberations when it gets there. I won't support it, but So to give my colleagues that aren't on this committee an opportunity to have the discussion and debate on it, I'd move that committee direct administration to bring forward a capital budget request to deliberations in the amount of $150,000 for the required engineering services study. Thank you.
And that motion is in order. Thank you for that, Mayor Clayton. Any discussion or debate on that? Seeing none, I'll just put my motion of support in here. I will be voting in favor of this for my council colleagues. We'll see how it all shakes out in the next coming months, but we have other updates coming up, one on the recreation center that might be going there, the alignments, and how fast we want to move on that. So this could all be interrelated if we choose to do a development there. So I'm going to keep my mind open for budget deliberations, and we'll go from there. Mayor Clayton.
For Chief Glavin, if council was interested in the high-level costs, how long would it take your engineering department to be able to come back with a high-level estimate?
I think fairly quickly. So I would say within a month we could have a very high level estimate that we wouldn't have a high confidence in the ultimate cost of it, but it would give a magnitude of what it could look like.
So I'm just thinking about the process here. Sure. I'll make a motion if you're okay with that, Chair Thiessen.
Do you want to withdraw your other motion, or?
No, let's go on that. I'll do it after.
Okay, well, I'll call the first motion to question. All in favor? And that carries. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. I would direct administration to bring back a report to this appropriate standing committee with high-level estimates for the engineering. Sorry, I'll repeat that. High-level preliminary cost estimates to construct the 105 Street and 116th connector. With, yeah, current costs, that's fine. I think once I see it, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, I got Chief Glavin. I also have a question for clarity, but I'll pass it over to Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I think on the road side, specifically, that initial, 3.5 to 5.1, we're going to have some inflationary adjustments on that. So we can, that would be relatively easy to bring back. The harder part would be if you want servicing costs of building out the area redevelopment plan for the commercial area, the multifamily area. That's the bigger, I think, outlier in this.
So I'm comfortable with just, I want to see the road costs, but if my colleagues on this committee or council have preference, I'm happy to amend my motion if anybody has input.
I actually do have a little bit of inputs. I think some of the clarity that was provided by Chief Glavin is one of my questions, because I was going to ask, does that include our stormwater improvements and everything else that's included in this report as well?
Right, so mine was only on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if I'm happy to amend it if there's interest to that, to include additional servicing.
Yeah, I would like the high level estimate on the entire costing of it all. If we can come away with that, for me, I can easily walk away myself and go, well, it was $3 to $5 million in 2019, so inflation is 2.3. So the times 2.3 on that, and that's probably what our road estimate is going to cost us, 7 to 10 million. But that's just me. I'm not an engineer, and I don't know what the work needs to be done on it. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done on this, and so what administration's asking for in these plans and studies is this is what it's going to cost. And I think once we open up the road to construct it, we're going to have to lay pipe and all that other stuff down across. So I'd like to know what the whole cost is, because you get savings in your bulk buys, right, and stuff like that.
So I can amend my motion then. So after the line where it says the road, if you could add including intensive utility servicing and special considerations for on-site stormwater retention estimates. Is that fair, Chief Glavin?
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. Yeah, we understand the intent.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, I understand the intent too. I got a Councillor Platt in the queue.
I'm just curious on the intent. Are we servicing other people's land with this then? Because if we're putting in a road and we're putting services, not all the lands are. So are we servicing other people's land as part of that? I'm just trying to get what's coming back.
Yeah. So my expectation would be that it would include the servicing for potential development, only because we're not going to want to do that road and then tear it up again. So I'd like to see the overall cost to do that, whether the servicing is the incentivification for multifamily dwelling or development, commercial, etc. To have that high level cost done internally, I just think is valuable information. It also opens an opportunity for conversation and with InvestGP and potentially other developers as they know a high level cost. Not saying we're paying for it, but it gives us a high level estimate.
I guess when it comes back with a detailed report, I'm still getting my head around how there's schools there that have been functioning for a long time with services, of how we're this far off on services in that area. And that's maybe where my struggle is there's been thousands of people living in this area and that for years. So I'm struggling with why we would need to think about adding a whole bunch of new services to it. So but I'm looking forward to the report coming back.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Councillor Plott. Any further discussion on the mayor's amended motion? Seeing none, we'll call to question. And that motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Coulter and Chief Glavin, and Ms. Donnelly, as I name dropped you earlier. So thank you all for being here today. Moving right along, I think we have no other business, bylaw and policy review. So we'll just jump right into our outstanding items list, and I'll turn it back over to Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. So we have our first item, which is light standards in the city. We're very close, just finalizing this report with ATCO. Swanhaven Outdoor Rink continues. Today we heard the report on the Avondale Recreation site, and we'll be bringing back additional information within the month or the next month. And the design and construction standards review. This is one we were initially asking for additional money to create or to do the review. We have recently applied to the federal government for funding, and we are hoping to hear back in November whether we get that, which if we do would provide that additional funding source. So this one's kind of on hold until we hear back from that program.
Okay, thank you for those updates, Chief Glavin. I'll look to committee to make a motion. Councillor Burke.
I'm not on this committee, but I did have a question.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, there you go. Councillor Burke.
Thank you. Chief Glavin, just curious about the old Comp and Leisure Center. I know that they've been doing a lot of salvage work on those sites. Is there an estimate when it'll be flat ground?
Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I can get an exact estimate for you when they intend to be done. I know that it's intended to be to turf by June of next year, where it would be reseeded. So the ultimate when it would be back to kind of semi-virgin soil would be by June of next year. But I believe within the next couple months they should make pretty good progress. But we'll give you an exact timeline.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor O'Toole.
If you're ready for business, I'll take care of that.
Well, take care of us, mister.
I move committee receive the September 12th, 2023 outstanding items list as amended for information.
Thank you very much for that motion, Councillor O'Toole. Any discussion or debate? Call to question. All in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time here today. This meeting is adjourned, as all other meetings are adjourned at this moment. We'll see you soon. Thank you.